Hey everybody, Steve Araujo here. Welcome to Beyond 11. I'm doing a regular intro this week. So next week we might do a little surprise or something, but this week, regular intro. Thank you for tuning in. Please comment, ask questions. My guest is amazing today. Very excited to have him. We're going to have giveaways, polls, so please join in the chat every Thursday, 3 to 4 p.m. And let's start the show right now. All right, everybody, welcome back, and please help me welcome my good friend, Mark Cohen.
Hello.
On the show. All the applause. Everybody's applauding. See, thank you. There you go.
Thank you.
So, Mark.
Send money.
Yes, exactly. Venmo or whatever, we'll have a little thing. So, Mark, right now you are the Chief Sales Officer, right? Did I get that right? Okay.
Yep.
Of audeze.
Yes.
audeze headphones.
Right.
I mean, the stuff you guys make is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Like super incredibly high quality from mastering. And I saw gaming too, right?
Yes.
So
definitely.
that's a huge market.
Yes.
So we will get into that. So that's
Right.
great. But you have had, I knew you, and I've known you, but then I started doing a deep dive, and man, you've done a lot.
Yes.
It's incredible, you know, and again, it's, you know, we've been friends, and you've been kind of like this business mentor to me. We talk, and I have questions about business stuff because I started as a player, got the bass hang going, and then I started going into business, and you've really given me some insights.
Oh, thank you.
Which is great. Yeah, and yeah, those phone calls, I've learned a lot from you. So I wanted to have you on the show just because you're so interesting. And the more I learned about you, the more I wanted to, like, man, we got to have him on the show. So you started, I mean, did you start, like all of us, musician? In the music industry since, yeah. What piqued your interest?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
So I started, I guess I was about 12 or 13 years old. I started playing bluegrass banjo. And when you're in a bluegrass band, I think you have to sign a contract that everybody has to take a solo on every instrument on every song. So whatever instrument you play, you have to take a solo in that song. So I started off on banjo, and then it turned out there was another banjo player in the band. And when our bass player left, actually first it was our mandolin player. When the mandolin player left, I had to learn to play mandolin. And as I was telling Steve earlier, I had to remember the first time I played mandolin in public was at Disneyland at the Tomorrowland stage, which was about a gazillion years ago. Then the bass player left. So I had to take over the bass player job, and I had absolutely no clue. You know, I came from playing banjo, guitar, and mandolin, and now I've got to play this low string and these fat strings and this big upright bass, and I didn't have a clue, except it's bluegrass music. So you got to play the one, you got to play the root.
1 to 5, right? Or 1 in the octave.
Yeah, or it's typically 1 in the 5.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, James Brown, he always just talk about the one, right?
Hit that one, Bootsy.
Yeah,
the one.
exactly.
Right? Yeah. So upright bass was your first. That's, I mean, the Doghouse.
Yep.
That thing's gnarly.
Yep. Wow. So that was my first attempt on bass playing, and I didn't know that much, so I just kind of like faked it and whatever. I didn't really take lessons, but I did learn some stuff from a guy named Eric White. Eric White was a bass player for the White Brothers, which was Roland White and Clarence White, the famous guitar player. So they originally had their own band, but Eric was an excellent player, and he did a lot of slap bass. And one thing I learned was how to do that, how can I put it? It's almost like an extra bump or an extra slap or bump that you get when you slap an upright bass that you can't do an electric, because your hand's bouncing against the fingerboard.
One of the most famous, Milt Hinton.
Yeah, there you go.
Literally one of the most famous guys that does. I mean, there were a bunch. I think even like Major Hawley, but Milt Hinton was one of the guys, right? Yeah. So did you learned how to do?
Yeah. So I used to do that. But I never thought about syncopating my playing or anything like that. I was too busy just trying to hit the one and
Yeah.
be on time, because
Yeah.
there's no drummer in a bluegrass band. That's another contract I think you have to sign too.
Yes.
No drummer allowed.
Well, it's funny. So the bluegrass, going from banjo to mandolin, and the bass is almost like the garage band. Too many guitar players, and
Yeah.
you're playing bass.
Yep.
So that's the parallel from bluegrass to just like normal. So, and so from then you started gigging. Did you study music?
Yes, I studied music. As a matter of fact, I was very, very fortunate. When I was about maybe 14 years old, I went to this music store in Pasadena. It was called Berry and Grassmuck. And what was amazing about the store, and I didn't realize it at the time, was that it had an incredible quality of teacher talent. And David Lindley was their banjo teacher, guitar teacher there.
The famous slide player.
Yeah, David
Jackson
Lindley.
Brown.
So I took lessons from David Lindley when I was
Whoa!
about 13, 14 years old.
What?
Yep, but the other teachers there were Jim Gordon on drums,
Okay.
who was with Derek and the Dominoes and whatever, all these other people. If you're a horn player, Warren Marsh was one of the sax teachers, as well as Gary Foster. They all did sessions all the time at Hollywood. I
Yeah.
mean, and so and Dave Kuntz was a jazz guitar teacher, and I
Okay.
took lessons from
Yeah.
him. And then later on, as I became more serious, I took lessons from Claire Fisher, who was big on music theory and composition, that sort of thing. But what had happened is that David got involved in big time band playing, I guess you'd say, and ended up on tour. He was going to tour with Terry Reid,
Yeah.
who at the time was signed to the Apple label.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was about 16 years old or so, and David says to me, "Hey, you want to take over my students?" And so that was guitar, mandolin, and auto harp.
Sure.
And I never thought about having to teach music before, and I realized having to teach something means you really have to know what you're playing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Or what you're sharing to your students.
And
for
how do
sure.
you communicate that? So that was very interesting.
Wow.
But after that, I didn't play upright bass or electric bass very much.
Okay.
Then later on, after I worked for Fender Musical Instruments, I got a call from some friends to help them out playing bass.
Wow.
And I was able to rummage through the Fender parts bin at the time, and
man.
and I picked out a fretless precision bass neck, as well as it was a fretless jazz bass neck and a P bass body,
Okay.
and get them to match the weight.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
it was
no neck
pretty
diving,
even,
yeah,
you know,
sure.
because as a bass player, you're always worrying about this. So I put together one of those fretless basses, and I was playing that for a while, and then I started to really sort of get serious about bass playing,
Sure.
and maybe I should think about what I'm doing. And at that time, maybe I was backwards. Most people, I think, started with James Jamerson as an
Sure.
influence,
Yeah.
but I started at that time with Chuck Rainey as my first influence. And then later on discovered James. But while I was
Yeah.
at Fender, it was great because I got to meet people such as Jaco Pastorius.
You got to meet Jocko.
Yeah, Jaco came in, got to meet him and hang out, and he was very interesting. Now, I didn't get a lesson from him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Not that I would have been able to take advantage of what he could teach
But
me.
just being in the presence
Yeah.
of Jocko, you know.
But he had a really interesting comment about bass design.
Okay.
And then maybe you or some of the people watching who are players may be able to comment and bring up your bass. So he was telling me that for him, in his style of playing, why don't we make the pickup covers that are rounded
Oh, okay.
instead of being absolutely flat? Because I guess
Sure.
the way he was playing, his fingers would hit the top of the pickup or whatever, and
Oh, the actual pickup cover.
he could hit it.
Oh,
So he wanted the
interesting.
pickup cover to be rounded. He thought that would make it easier for him to play.
Wow.
So we never did that at Fender, but it's kind of always stuck in the back of my mind. Maybe
Sure.
that'd be something to try to see if people
That's
really found that to be
interesting.
more, not efficient, but maybe more comfortable in their
Yeah.
playing or something. I don't know, but
Well, he was he'd play up close, but then
Yeah.
he would definitely play bridge pickup. I mean,
Yeah.
that was, obviously the Jocko sound is
Yep.
by that bridge pickup, you know, but that's interesting. Let's see, we got a comment. Chase, what's up? Here for the audio talk. Good to have you, Chase. Thanks for watching. So what years were you at Fender?
73 to 78, 5 years. Yep.
73. So Leo sold at 65 to CBS.
Correct.
Had a 5-year that he still had to do some stuff, 10-year total non-compete. So,
Yes.
yeah, and there was an interesting thing. We're going to get into audeze.
Okay.
But the one thing that that is so fascinating, that this gentleman, I wrote some dates down.
Uh-oh.
So
I'm in trouble now.
So no. So the P bass, the redesigned precision bass, before 57, looked like a Telecaster body and had a single coil pickup.
Right.
In 57, the P bass or precision bass looks like this. It used to have a bridge cover with mutes, and it had a pickup cover, and it had this thumb rest.
Yep.
That wasn't a thumb rest, but more of a handle.
Right.
Right? So eventually, it was changed to the bass side,
Yep.
which makes more sense to everybody, because then you could put your thumb up here.
Yes.
My thinking, and you're the man that's responsible for the switch.
Yes,
So
I am.
the jazz
Guilty
bass,
as charged.
Yeah, but the jazz bass and the P bass both had that.
Yes.
And I think it was 1973. That's when that happened.
Yep.
So there you go. Okay, so my thinking is that the electric bass was made originally to mimic a double bass. Hence the mutes and all that.
Right.
So you'd put your hand over the cover, you'd hook here, and you'd play with your thumb. Is that why that's there?
All right. So let me give you some history.
Give me some history.
When I was there, Freddie Tavares was still there, who was
Yeah.
one of the original Leo Fender guys.
Yes.
Also, Gene Fields was still there, and Seth Lover, who did the humbucking pickups
Yeah.
for Gibson, he was now at Fender at the time that I was there. So what I found from talking to Freddie is that Freddie would tell me, well, look, everybody's going to play like this. They're going to have their fingers hooked here,
Sure.
and they're going to play with their thumb. And I had to tell Freddie, no, they now do this. You know?
Yeah.
So we need to move this rest. And to their credit, they did not give me any grief about it. They just said, oh,
Really?
Mark, if that's the way people are really playing that way, I'm perfectly okay with that. And then, months later, the change was made.
Yeah, it was. I was doing some research. 72, 73 was when they did that.
Yeah.
That is so cool. When I read that, I freaked out. And then I think we were talking, and then you told me a little. I go, wait, don't tell me. I want to talk about it on the show. So I think that's fascinating. Let's see. All right, we've got Jeff, bass dabbler. Aren't we all? We're all bass dabblers, and I think that keeps it alive. I love that. We got another Chase. I own a bass. Not sure how well I play. LOL. I think we all feel that way.
Right.
We're right there with you, Chase. Peter, yes, I played bass for several decades. Right, we got a lot of bass players here. I love it. Charles, same as Chase here, right on. Jeff, I got a small scale as it is closer to guitar scale. Absolutely, short scales, 30-inch scale bass, little easier to play. And the nice thing is, within the last 10 years or so, string companies are actually making shorter scale basses, bass strings, to go up the tension so they're not floppy. Because I remember back in the day, a short scale would feel...
Yeah, if you got a Fender Mustang bass in those days, you
was-
always felt like, man, I wish I could really have a bass.
Yeah. So eventually, companies like GHS, Diodario, whoever, DR starts making them. So let's see, Peter, I never understood why the finger rest was where it was located. So now
you know.
we found out. So I just think that's so fascinating, man. And the other thing too is, like, this goes into company and making these little changes that you basically suggested it, and it's a huge company, and they did it.
Well, that's a lot to the credit of the people that were there. It was Freddie Tavares and Gene Fields, and these people really wanted to make great products. That's really what it was all about. And even though it was owned by CBS and there were corporate things to deal with, really for the R&D department they had at the time, everybody really tried to make a great product. Nobody really stood in the way. When I'd come in with some weird idea, they'd at least listen to me and not laugh.
Sure, which is great. That's a good thing. We got Eric Bass's Home, actually the name is, let's see, Eric Bass's Home, In the Pocket. Yes, sir. Yes. Okay. So you go from there, you're starting, is that kind of where you transitioned into the business side of things and kind of learning? Did you have schooling, MBA, or, did you go to school for business?
Oh, no.
There we go. No, okay, I like it.
No,
I like
I
it.
went to Fender for business.
Yeah, kind of learning on the job, like.
Actually, it's a little bit more than that.
Okay.
So I went to Long Beach, California State University at Long Beach, and then I went to Glendale. I went to Glendale College of Law.
Oh.
And so I actually I was doing studio work, teaching music at Barry and Grassmick, playing in bands, and doing what we all do as musicians to get around and get alive. And I was doing that, and I had a music store in what was Old Town Pasadena when it was still new Old Town Pasadena. The very first iteration of Old Town Pasadena on Fair Oaks, we had a little guitar shop that was on the lower level. And then one day the Fender rep walks in and says, "Hey, I'm looking for someone who knows music but also understands the technology." And I had some engineering background. I had built all these electronics devices when I was younger, and I thought I was going to be a nuclear physicist when I was a kid.
Oh my gosh.
And so I wasn't there that day. I was doing a session, as a matter of fact, as a Toyota commercial with Al Hurt on trumpet.
Oh my God.
And Harvey Mason on drums.
Oh my.
I was playing banjo.
Wow. You were playing banjo on that?
Yeah, no one would ever call me for a bass studio session.
No,
like
that's
that.
amazing. Harvey Mason's one of my all-time favorites.
Long friend of mine too. A great guy and such a player.
Yeah.
Amazing. My partner said, "Oh, you need to talk to Mark Cohen. He knows about the technology and engineering, and he's a player." And they call me up.
Wow.
I go in and talk to him. My hair is down to here.
Nice. We should have gotten some pictures of long hair. Oh my God, that's next time. That's next time.
Yeah, I kind of had that Eric Clapton look from the original Cream days.
Yeah.
I had the big mustache that came down here. Anyway.
I love it.
Quite a scene.
Yes.
I looked the part, but it was CBS, and they didn't care. They said, "No, this is great. We love it." And even though I wasn't quite in their corporate mold, they were good. And because it was a corporation that owned a lot of different things, at the time I was there, they owned the New York Yankees. They owned these publishing companies that had Road and Track magazine and Cycle World. They owned Creative Playthings. They owned X-Acto knives. And they had a program for management training to be a senior management, where you'd have to spend a couple of months in every single department, including service, which was why I was able to raid the parts bin to get that precision bass with a fretless neck.
Do you still have it?
No, that's been long gone, unfortunately.
Just checking. All right. That's amazing.
So I learned a lot that way. And also at that time, and I get into legal things here in the sense that at that time, fair trade laws were being abolished. If anyone is as old as I am, you may remember that products had to be sold at retail in some cases.
Yeah.
This is way before MAP happened, but this is what made MAP happen. And so I learned a lot legally. Because I had to travel around and train all the dealers and the salesmen. I had to learn all the legal things about running a business and what you could say, what are warranty laws, UCC, all that kind of thing. So it was a fascinating experience, and learned a lot by negative things that happened, but also very, very positive things that happened. And of course, I met so many really great people too. Yeah. And as I found in most of my life so far, the people that are really talented tend to be the ones that are the nicest to newbies.
Yeah.
They'll at least be pleasant and try to help and whatever.
Yeah.
So that's been my experience.
That's interesting.
But I got to meet Stu Spector, for example.
Wow.
And when
legendary builder,
And when I got serious about bass playing again, I reached out to Stu and I had to make me a matching fretless and fretted bass.
NS2s?
Yeah, NS4s.
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 Made in Woodstock?
Yeah, the original ones.
Do you still have those?
No, unfortunately. That fretless that Stuart made for me was the instrument for me. For whatever reason, I could actually play pretty well on that.
Yeah, you connected to it. You connected seriously. I mean, Stuart Spector is he's like a Ken Smith, like a Carl Thompson,
a great guy.
Yeah, that pedigree, those guys coming out at that time. I mean,
but I needed something. I'm one of those players that if the instrument doesn't feel right to me, I can't play at all. Yeah. I'm just a terrible player. But I know other people like David Lindley, who I took lessons from. He could pick up a tennis racket.
And just